Ever get that feeling? Like a little whisper in the back of your mind. Are you happy yet? I think we all do. We put so much energy into chasing these big milestones, thinking that'll be it, the promotion, the perfect partner, the bigger house. But what if I told you? What if the key to actually feeling truly happy and fulfilled, what if it wasn't about all the stuff we collect on the outside, but about something we find within?
That's really the heart of what we're diving into today. We're going deep into Buddhist philosophy, and this tradition, it's been around for centuries. It offers such profound insights into why we suffer and how we can actually break free from that and find true happiness. Our source material today lays it all out. 10 Hidden Secrets of Buddhist Monks for Endless Happiness. Just that title, talk about a perspective shift.
Endless happiness. It does sound almost too good to be true, right? But what really grabbed me about this source as I was going through it was just how practical it is. It's not all, airy-fairy ideals. It gets down to the nitty-gritty of how these monks actually live their lives, the principles they really live by. I feel like we're getting this sneak peek behind the curtain, and that means we, you the listener, get these super insightful perspectives and some really concrete steps we can actually think about putting into practice. And this whole journey into these 10 secrets, it all starts with this simple but powerful image, the empty cup.
Exactly. Picture this. You're sitting there with this wise old monk ready to soak up all that wisdom. And what do? They hand you an empty clay cup. It's like, wait, what? That moment, that pause. It's a teaching in itself.
Right. It's that confusion. You're expecting some big revelation, this whole complex philosophy laid out, and instead you get an empty cup. So help us unpack this. What's the deeper meaning here?
That simple gesture, like our source explains, it speaks volumes. The cup is your mind, my mind, all of our minds. And most of the time, they're overflowing. And it's not just to-do lists and errands, it's deeper stuff, expectations we've been carrying around forever, fears, and even, ideas we have about what happiness is supposed to be. The big takeaway here is that if we want to truly receive something new, something that can change us, we need to make some space first.
So we're all walking around with these full cups,
Right.
right? And we keep trying to pour more happiness in from the outside, a better job, a fancy vacation, getting people to like us more. But if that cup's already crammed full of all our assumptions and anxieties and all that, anything good, it just spills over.
That's it. Our culture really drills it into us. Happiness is something you buy, something you chase, something you own. But Buddhist philosophy nudges us in a different direction. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, real happiness is already there, deep down inside us, waiting to be discovered. But the catch is, we can't access it if our minds are all cluttered and noisy. It's not just about kicking out negativity, it's about taking a good hard look at those boxes we try to fit happiness into.
It's like, imagine you're trying to learn a brand new language, but all you can hear is the constant chatter of your own language in your head. You need that silence, that space, to really hear and absorb something new. And this brings up something interesting. It's not just negative thoughts clogging up our cups, right?
Yeah.
Even holding on to past joys too tightly can get in the way of experiencing new ones.
That's a great point. Clinging to positive memories, it can actually create a kind of stiffness, and it prevents us from fully being in the present moment, in the moment where happiness can actually happen. And what's fascinating is how monks actually cultivate this emptiness. Our source talks about their daily practice of stillness, especially those early morning meditations. Imagine them. Quiet dawn, everyone finding stillness together in this peaceful monastery.
It's so different from how most of us start our days. It's all about grabbing our phones right away, that barrage of notifications, getting sucked into all the demands and distractions. It's like we're intentionally filling up our cups the second we wake up.
And our source makes that contrast so clear. It highlights how that morning meditation isn't just routine for monks. It's like they're preparing the soil for happiness to grow. By quieting their minds, they're creating that receptive space where joy and peace can naturally well up, not by forcing it, but by just being present.
It's like setting an inner tone for the whole day, feeding that foundation of calm that doesn't depend on anything outside of yourself. I like how our source puts this question out there for you, the listener. What rituals do you have that prepare you for happiness? It's a bit of a reality check, isn't it? Makes you think about whether you're being intentional about finding that inner peace.
It is. And honestly, for a lot of us, the answer might be none. We just haven't been taught to make this inner wellspring of joy a priority. It's all about achievements and getting approval from others. But our source reminds us that it's never too late to start. This whole conversation is about how monks find this deep happiness that comes from simply being, not constantly doing or chasing after things. The main point here isn't just about getting rid of negative thoughts, but also realizing that our fixed ideas about what happiness should be can prevent us from actually experiencing it.
Okay, so we've talked about the empty cup that need to create some space. What's next in this journey toward finding lasting happiness?
Well, the second hidden secret takes us to a core concept in Buddhist philosophy: impermanence, or anicca. Our source describes this universal truth using beautiful imagery: changing seasons, flowers that bloom and then fade, the constant flow of rivers. It's just the way things are.
But as humans, we seem to resist change. We crave stability. We build our lives around the idea that things stay the same, at least for a while. Our relationships, our jobs, even our bodies and minds. And when change does happen, and it always does, we often freak out.
Exactly. We cling to this idea that things are permanent, but that's an illusion. And Buddhist teachings say that clinging is a big source of our suffering. Our source describes this powerful practice the monks do to really grasp this idea of impermanence, watching a burning candle.
That's a striking image. You can really picture it. The flame moving and flickering, the wax melting away, the light slowly disappearing. It really brings home the idea that everything changes.
It does. And our source explains that this practice isn't about being negative or focusing on death, it's about finding freedom. By really understanding that nothing lasts forever, they start to let go of their attachments and their fear of loss fades. This allows them to appreciate the beauty of each moment, knowing it won't come back exactly the same.
It's like that saying, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, but taken to a whole other level. Speaking of stories, our source shares this one about the businessman Hiroshi and a Zen master with a single red rose. What can you tell us about that?
This story perfectly captures how much we resist change. Hiroshi, even though he's successful on the outside, he's feeling deeply unhappy inside. And the Zen master, holding a wilting rose, asks this simple question: did you expect this rose to stay fresh forever? It cuts through all the complexity, right? And Hiroshi realizes something profound. He's not suffering because things in his life changed. He's suffering because he kept expecting them to stay the same. The message here is that resisting change, even seemingly good change, can actually cause suffering because we're clinging to a specific form instead of going with the flow.
That's so relatable. We spend so much energy fighting the natural flow of life. And that resistance, that's a big part of what makes us unhappy and anxious. The master's question is so simple, but it's like holding up a mirror. If you can accept that a flower will wilt, why are you resisting change in other parts of your life?
Right, and our source highlights how Hiroshi started to change. He began to be grateful for the present moment and accept that everything is impermanent, and he discovered a peace that didn't depend on things staying the same.
It really changes how we see impermanence, doesn't it? It's not something to be scared of and fight against, but something to understand and even appreciate, because that's just how life works. It frees up so much mental and emotional energy when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable and just focus on the present. Our source then poses another question for you, the listener. Where am I resisting change in my life?
It's an invitation to really look at yourself. Are there relationships that have run their course but we're holding on out of habit or fear of being alone? Careers that don't feel right anymore but we stay in them for security? Dreams we're afraid to let go of even though they're not serving us? Our source gently reminds us that letting go isn't failing. It's creating space for new possibilities. Building on the idea of clearing our minds, the next step in understanding how monks find happiness involves this fundamental shift in how we see reality. And that brings us to the idea of impermanence.
So we've talked about having an empty mind and accepting change. It feels like our perspective is really starting to shift. But for those of us who like things a bit more concrete, our source goes on to explore where science and spirituality intersect. It looks into why practices like mindfulness actually work.
This is where ancient wisdom meets modern science, and our source points out what a powerful combination it is. It addresses that question a lot of us have. Is there any scientific proof that meditation and mindfulness actually do anything? And the answer, backed up by more and more research, is a big yes.
There's been a ton of research in this area lately. Our source highlights how regular meditation can actually change the structure and function of our brains, improving things like emotional control, compassion, and self-awareness.
There's this one study from Harvard mentioned in our source that's really important. It shows that after just 8 weeks of mindfulness, there are visible changes in the brain. They saw more gray matter in the hippocampus, which is essential for learning and memory, and there was less gray matter in the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that deals with stress and anxiety. This is physical evidence that these practices can actually change us.
It all comes down to neuroplasticity, the amazing ability of our brains to adapt, learn, and even rewire themselves throughout our lives.
Hmm.
We used to think that once you reach adulthood, your brain was pretty much set. But now we know it can change in remarkable ways.
Exactly. Our source emphasizes that consistently doing things like meditation, yoga, and even just focused breathing can create new connections in the brain and strengthen the ones that are already there. It's really empowering to realize that happiness and well-being aren't fixed. They're skills we can develop through practice.
The example of Sarah, the corporate executive, makes it so real. She wasn't making these huge life changes, just adding some focused breathing exercises into her routine. And it made a real difference in her stress levels, her energy, her overall well-being.
It shows that mindfulness isn't just for monks in monasteries. It's a practical tool anyone can use, no matter what their life is like. It helps us improve our mental health and find a more lasting sense of happiness, even when things are tough.
And our source gives you, the listener, a simple exercise to try. Just close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, and notice the sensations in your body without judging them. It's a tiny time investment that can be surprisingly effective at relieving tension and bringing you back to the present moment.
It's a good reminder that mindfulness doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. Even these little moments of intentional presence can make a big difference in how we experience joy and handle stress.
Okay, so we've covered the need for an empty mind, accepting change, and the science behind mindfulness. What's the next piece in this puzzle of lasting happiness, according to Buddhist wisdom?
Now we're moving on to the path of compassion. And what's really interesting is that both ancient spiritual wisdom and modern science agree on this one. Both see the incredible power of compassion, or karu, in Buddhist terms, as a key to genuine happiness, both for ourselves and others.
It's not just about being kind to others, is it? Our source makes this point, that being compassionate actually helps us heal and feel better ourselves.
Right. Our source describes this scene where someone helps an elderly person at a market and how good it makes both people feel. It's like compassion has this ripple effect, benefiting everyone it touches.
And monks, as our source points out, they dedicate their whole lives to this principle. They act out of unconditional love and care for everyone. And this seems to give them a strong sense of purpose and a kind of joy that's really unshakable.
It does. And our source gives us 3 practical ways to cultivate more compassion in our own lives, starting with the fundamental practice of active listening.
Active listening. It seems so simple, but it's so powerful. It's about giving someone your full attention, no distractions, making eye contact, really being present with them. Our source highlights the Buddhist view that every interaction is a chance to be mindful and show compassion.
It is. And the second step is doing small acts of kindness every day. This reinforces the idea that compassion doesn't have to be these big, grand gestures. Holding a door, leaving a nice note, offering a genuine smile, these little things, when you do them with intention, can create and spread joy.
And the third step is to reflect on our interconnectedness. This is a core Buddhist principle, that we're all connected, and harming others ultimately harms ourselves, and lifting others up elevates us too. Our source suggests visualizing our actions rippling outward, fostering a sense of unity.
And this ties right into the science of compassion. Our source mentions that when we do selfless things, it activates the reward centers in our brains, releasing feel-good chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine. These are the same chemicals that reduce stress and boost our immune systems. It's like our brains are wired to reward kindness.
That story of Aang, the young monk who was feeling isolated and lonely until he started helping others in his village, really illustrates this. He realized that focusing on his own pain wasn't the answer, but helping others brought him true happiness.
It highlights how contagious happiness can be. When we act with compassion, it creates what our source calls a vibrant ecosystem of joy, where everyone benefits, including ourselves.
So we're building this solid foundation, an empty mind, accepting change, being present, and connecting through compassion. What's the next key to unlocking this lasting happiness the monks embody?
The next essential piece is the power of gratitude. Our source explains that gratitude is more than just good manners. It's a way of looking at the world, a practice that connects us to ourselves and to the good things that already exist in our lives. Monks cultivate this, seeing beauty in everyday things and recognizing blessings even in difficult situations. The point here is that gratitude isn't just about feeling good, it's about training your mind to notice the positive aspects of your life, which creates a positive feedback loop.
I like how our source compares how we usually react to a rainy morning, maybe annoyance or disappointment, with how a monk might see it, as a gift, a part of nature's cycle, an invitation to slow down and appreciate something different. It shows how much our perception shapes our experience.
Absolutely. And our source gives us some practical ways to cultivate this attitude of gratitude. The first one is keeping a gratitude journal.
Taking a few minutes each evening to write down 3 things, big or small, that you're grateful for. It's like consciously shifting your focus to the positive parts of your day. I imagine monks doing something similar during their evening meditations.
Exactly. And the second strategy is to actively express gratitude to others, being sincere and specific in your thanks. This strengthens our relationships and also makes us more aware of the support we receive.
And the third one, maybe the most challenging, is learning to find gratitude even in tough situations. Asking ourselves what we can learn from these experiences, how they might help us grow. Our source points out that monks often see obstacles as valuable teachers.
The story of May, who lost her home in a flood, is so powerful. She found comfort and strength in helping others and being grateful, inspired by a monk's story. It shows how gratitude can be a source of hope even in the face of terrible things.
And our source emphasizes this wonderful feedback loop of gratitude. The more you acknowledge the good in your life, the more good you notice and experience. And it's not just a nice feeling, there's actual scientific evidence that gratitude can reduce stress hormones, improve sleep, and make us more satisfied with our lives.
It's about intentionally shifting our focus away from what we think we're missing and appreciating what we already have. That shift can unlock a huge amount of inner peace.
So we're learning to be present and appreciate the good things around us. The next secret takes us even deeper into how we can cultivate this appreciation in our everyday lives.
Yes, the next principle is mindful living. Our source describes it beautifully as the art of finding joy and sacredness in the simple things we do every day. Monks are great examples of this. They bring their full attention and a sense of reverence to even the most ordinary activities.
Our source gives us some practical ways to tap into this power of mindful living. Eating with intention, walking with awareness, and simplifying our physical space. Let's break those down a bit.
Let's start with eating with intention. It's about savoring each bite without distractions, really appreciating the flavors, the textures, the nourishment, and even the effort someone put into making the meal. Our source mentions that monks often take a moment of gratitude or reflection before eating, a reminder of interconnectedness.
It's so different from how many of us eat mindlessly while doing other things, barely even tasting our food. Bringing intention back into something we do multiple times a day seems like a profound way to be more present.
Absolutely. And then there's walking with awareness. It's about moving slowly and deliberately, feeling the ground beneath your feet, noticing your breath, the air on your skin. It's about turning a regular walk into a moving meditation.
Instead of rushing to get somewhere, it's about being fully present in the journey itself, taking it all in. And then there's this suggestion of simplifying our physical space, getting inspiration from the intentional minimalism you often see in monasteries.
Clutter, as our source points out, can contribute to mental clutter and overwhelm. By decluttering our homes and keeping only things that are useful or bring us joy, we can create a sense of clarity and inner peace.
It reminds me of Hiroshi's story. He found peace not just by embracing change, but also by simplifying his life. It seems like letting go of excess, both in our minds and our surroundings, is a recurring theme. Our source asks another important question here. Am I fully present in this moment?
That's the heart of mindful living. Our source reminds us that the present moment, this breath right now, is where all of life happens and therefore where joy is possible.
Okay, so we're learning to find joy in the little things and be more present in our daily lives. But the next secret brings in an idea that seems a bit counterintuitive, a paradox of happiness.
This is a deep insight, one that challenges a lot of what we're taught about happiness. Our source explains that the more we chase after happiness as a goal, the harder it can be to find. Monks, through their practice, create the conditions for happiness to naturally arise by, paradoxically, wanting less.
That feels almost opposite to what we're always told, that we need to strive for more, get more things, achieve more to be happy.
Right. Our source uses a helpful analogy. Imagine a still lake. If you keep tossing pebbles into it, the water stays rippled and murky. Real contentment, or santosha, which means contentment or finding joy in what you have, comes when we stop throwing those pebbles and let the water become still and clear.
It's about shifting our focus from some future goal to finding satisfaction in the present journey. It's like that image of climbing a mountain. It's not just about getting to the top, but enjoying the views along the way and the company of the people you're climbing with.
Exactly. And our source offers some practices to help us cultivate this mindset of desiring less. The first is detaching from specific outcomes.
So, it's about putting your energy into the process, into doing the work. without getting too fixated on a particular result, trusting that things will unfold as they should.
Which can be incredibly freeing, It takes away a lot of anxiety and pressure. The second practice our source suggests is contentment meditation.
This involves consciously focusing on what you already have, your home, your food, the people you love, and repeating something like, I am grateful for what I have. I am enough. It's a powerful way to change how you talk to yourself.
And the third practice is challenging the idea that more is always better, really questioning if more possessions, achievements, or approval from others will actually make us happy. It encourages us to choose simplicity, decluttering our schedules and commitments, and focusing on quality over quantity.
I'm noticing how interconnected these secrets are, how they all build on each other. The idea that wanting less can actually lead to more happiness is definitely something to think about.
They are interconnected, they form a whole path. And the next secret, the art of being, goes even deeper into this idea of finding happiness not in constant action, but in simply existing.
It's about rediscovering the power and peace of just being, especially in a world that's so focused on doing and achieving all the time.
Exactly. Our source describes a monk meditating in this state of pure being, what's called suchness. It's about experiencing reality without judgment or resistance, just letting it be as it is. It reminds us that happiness doesn't always have to be created or chased. It's often already there. We just need to stop long enough to notice it.
So how can we, with our busy lives, actually bring in more of this art of being? Our source gives us some practical tips.
It starts with creating what it calls sacred pauses throughout the day. These are brief moments of stillness and awareness, even if they only last a few seconds. Little moments to reset and reconnect with ourselves.
Like before starting a new task, between phone calls, or just taking a moment to look out the window, finding those little pockets of being in the middle of all the doing.
And then there's the practice of mindful observation. It's about really paying attention to an ordinary object as if you're seeing it for the first time, noticing all the details. Our source talks about monks meditating on a single object for hours.
That level of focus is pretty amazing. It says a lot about their practice. And then there's the idea of practicing ritual slowness.
This is about doing those everyday things, brushing your teeth, washing dishes, walking much more slowly and intentionally, paying attention to each sensation. It's about turning something ordinary into a mindful experience.
That story about Elena at the silent retreat is a great example of how powerful stillness can be. By creating these moments of just being, she started to see things differently and found a deep sense of peace she hadn't felt before.
It highlights that our natural state, when we're not constantly caught up in doing and striving, is often one of peace and contentment.
And now we've arrived at the 10th and final hidden secret in this exploration of Buddhist wisdom.
Yes, the culmination of all these principles, embracing simple being as a way of life, finding joy in the very act of living, no matter what's happening around us.
Our source uses this beautiful image of a bird singing, not for applause, but simply because that's its nature. It's about aligning ourselves with who we truly are.
Exactly. And our source challenges you, the listener, to try something. Dedicate just 5 minutes a day to simply be in a quiet space, resisting distractions, and gradually increase that time as you feel comfortable.
It sounds so simple, but in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with stimulation, it can be surprisingly hard. But it's in that stillness, that simple act of being present, that deep and lasting happiness can truly begin to grow.
It can. Our source ends by reminding us that happiness isn't a destination. It's a garden we need to tend, cultivated through compassion, gratitude, mindfulness, and the simple yet profound art of being. When we do this, we create a space of joy inside us that can't be touched by any storm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's take a moment to appreciate the journey we've taken. Understanding the empty cup, the power of embracing impermanence, the science behind mindfulness and science meets spirituality. We explored the path of compassion and the joy of connecting, the power of gratitude and appreciating what we have, and the peace of mindful living in our daily lives. We looked at the paradox of happiness, how wanting less can lead to more, and explored the art of being, finding peace and stillness. And finally, we arrived at the profound simplicity of embracing simple being.
And through it all, there's this clear message. True, lasting happiness doesn't come from outside of us. It's something we cultivate from within.
This exploration of Buddhist wisdom has been so thought-provoking, and it leaves us with this final and maybe most important question for you, the listener. Which of these hidden secrets speaks to you most right now, and what's one small step you can take today to start bringing it into your life?
We encourage you to really think about these ideas and how you might weave them into your daily routines. It could be the start of something truly transformative for your well-being and your happiness.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the profound wisdom of Buddhist philosophy.